Hi everyone, I'm Sergio Lai, and for this slide sets, we will be discussing the specific defense against infection, immunity. The immune system is a collection of organs, tissues, and cells that together perform a vital function of safeguarding the body from pathogens. The human defense is composed of non-specific and specific defenses. The focus of this presentation is the specific defense. The adaptive or acquired immune response takes days or even weeks to become established, much longer than the innate response. However, adaptive immunity is more specific to pathogens and has memory. Adaptive immunity is an immunity that occurs after exposure to an antigen, either from a pathogen or a vaccination. This part of the immune system is activated when the innate immune response is insufficient to control an infection. In fact, without information from the innate immune system, the adaptive response could not be mobilized. To summarize, the specific defense, or the third line of defense, is the adaptive immunity. It is developed uniquely for each microbe, and its effect is systemic. There are two types of adaptive responses: the cell mediated response, which is carried out by T cells, and the humoral immune response, which is controlled by activated B cells and antibodies. In the wake of the first infection involving a particular antigen, the responding naive cells proliferate to produce a colony of cells, most of which differentiate into a plasma cell, also called effector B cells. Effector B cells produce antibodies and clear away with the resolution of infection, and the rest persist as memory cells that can survive for years or even a lifetime. Take note that antibody-mediated immunity involves B lymphocytes that differentiate into plasma cells and secrete antibodies. This diagram illustrates the difference between a primary immune response and the secondary immune response. Following the first exposure to a foreign antigen, a lag phase occurs in which no antibody is produced, but activated B cells are differentiating into plasma cells. The amount of antibody produced is usually relatively low. Over time, antibody levels decline to the point where it may be undetectable. The first antibody produced is mainly IgM, or immunoglobulin M, although small amounts of IgG are usually also produced. How about in secondary immune response? If a second dose of the same antigen is given days or even years later, an accelerated secondary or anamnestic immune response occurs. This lag phase is usually very short due to the presence of memory cells. The amount of antibody produced rises to a high level. Antibody level tends to remain high for longer. The main type of antibody produced is immunoglobulin G, or IgG, although small amounts of IgM are sometimes produced. To compare, primary immune response occurs after the first infection, while a secondary immune response occurs after a repeat infection. The main antibody in primary immune response is IgM, while it is IgG in secondary immune response. There will also be more antibodies, and they will last longer. The antibody-mediated immunity is also known as the humoral or circulating immunity because these defenses reside ultimately in the B lymphocytes. Furthermore, the antibody-mediated immunity defend primarily against extracellular phases of bacterial and viral infections. This cartoon illustrates this concept. The B cell says, I attack invaders outside the cells, to which the T cell responds, I attack infected cells. When I was a student, I actually have difficulty memorizing that the humoral immunity is the antibody-mediated immunity. So to help me remember, I write the letter H first, which stands for humoral, and then I place a horizontal line on top of letter H, so it becomes letter A, and A stands for antibody-mediated. And to complete it, I place another line at the bottom, and it now looks like letter B, which stands for B cells. So the humoral immunity is also known as the antibody-mediated immunity, and it involves the B cells. The cell-mediated immunity involves T lymphocytes. Both the B cells and T cells originate from stem cells in the bone marrow. B cells are processed from pre-B cells in the red marrow, whereas T cells are processed from pre-T cells in the thymus. These T cells pass into the general circulation. There are three main groups of T cells. One, helper T cells, which help in the function of the immune system. Two, cytotoxic T cells, which attack and kill microorganisms and sometimes the body's own cells. And three, suppressor T cells, which can suppress the function of the helper T cells and cytotoxic T cells and keep the immune system from becoming overactive. I found these interesting images in the internet illustrating the function of the CD4 T cell and the CD8 T cell. Wait, what? CD4? CD8? What are those? The helper T cells are called CD4, while the cytotoxic T cells are called CD8. And this is a cue for another mnemonic. So just write the word helper and then superimpose the number 4 on the letter H, forming now your mnemonic for helper T cells or the CD4. For cytotoxic, write the word cytotoxic and then scribble as shown on the slide until you form the number 8. So CD8 cytotoxic T cells. We are now ready to summarize. The adaptive immunity is the third line of defense, and it is specific, not innate, acquired, and systemic. The antibody-mediated immunity is also known as the humoral immunity. It involves B cells, and B cells differentiate into plasma cells, which produces the antibody. Cell-mediated immunity involves T cells, and they do not involve antibodies. Pause this video, gather your thoughts, and when you are ready, let us have a practice test, which is also known as CD8, A helper T cells, or B cytotoxic T cells. You have 5 seconds. The correct answer is B cytotoxic T cells. Helper T cells are also known as CD4. Humoral immunity is A antibody mediated or B cell mediated. You have 5 seconds. If you answered A antibody mediated, that is correct. In secondary immune response, which of the following is true? A. Predominance of IgM. B. More antibodies are produced. C. Antibody level remain high for short period of time. Or D. None of the above. You have 5 seconds. And the correct answer is B. More antibodies are produced. A is wrong because it should be IgG. And C is wrong because antibody levels remain high for long period of time. Which does not describe the adaptive immune response? A is specific, B systemic, C innate, or D none of the above. You have 5 seconds. And the correct answer is C, innate, because the innate immunity describes the first two lines of defense, which are non-specific as well. If you got 4 questions correctly, you did a good job. If not, rewind this video to check your answers. This ends the slide set. Please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Memory Aid Nursing. Thank you.